Welcome to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker, a podcast to encourage and equip moms along their parenting journey. Join Sarah each week as she interviews dads and moms like you and discusses the joys, challenges, and rewards of raising kids.
Hi, and welcome to this week's You Got This. I'm your host, Sarah Hamaker. Today I have with me Mike Smart. He's a certified leadership parenting coach through the Rosemond Leadership Parenting Institute, and he also runs his own parent coach business called Parenting Outsmarted. He has more than 30 years experience as a classroom teacher and basketball coach. And more importantly, he's a father to 4 grown children and a grandfather to 5, which, as we all know, once you parent kids, you're suddenly an expert, right, Mike? So welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Today I wanted to talk about athletic and sportsmanship and how things have gotten a little bit cockeyed. Now, I'll just confess to my listeners that my kids actually don't play sports. Their choice, they've not really wanted to, or the sports they wanted to play have had games and practices on Sundays, which as Christians, we tend to save that for church. But I played sports as a child. I played softball and basketball in high school, and I played softball almost since I was a kid up through high school. And not that I was very good. I just enjoyed it. I love playing. But, I don't remember my parents coming to many of my games. Even in high school, they did not come to all my games, my home games. Now, this did not make me sad as a child or as a teenager. In fact, I kind of liked it that they didn't come. Kind of relieved a lot of pressure from me. But nowadays, it seems like parents are there at every practice and every game and every opportunity. Why? What made the change?
Right, and I admire those who can go. I think we overemphasize, we conflate being a good parent with attending every function. That's a little bit of the last few decades where we tend to, as parents, to want to run more of the show than maybe used to be done. And that can be good, but it also shows where our emphasis sometimes is. You got to be careful as a parent, because do I emphasize my daughter, my son, my athletic child? Do I emphasize their athletics, their achievement, their events over maybe some other things we could do as parents in relation to their sporting events? Just be careful. The crazy parent is out there, and I've seen them at events. I've been a basketball coach and a referee and a parent of a professional basketball child, and I see crazy parents who tend to lose at the games or get extremely upset. And the overemphasis on the sport your child is in sometimes can show the value. You may have some value issues. You just got to be careful.
Right. And I think that, and one of the things that kind of the meat of our program today is going to be helping our athletic kid, and this can apply to our theatrical child or our child who is more in the spotlight. Could be an academic child who is just really good at something, and how we can help them not get too big ahead. But I think it is important for us as parents to realize that these are kids first and athletes or academics second, kind of like. I think, keeping that balance can be hard. Right.
And, for our faith-based listeners out there in the audience, if there was ever a human nature sin that is continually tough for us to handle, it's the self-centeredness and esteeming others better than themselves, looking not on your own things, but on the things of others. And of course, you've heard, love your neighbor as yourself. Do we ever really? Yeah. I think our whole lives focus on, our accomplishments and what we do and what we have going on that day. And to be able to have your athletic child get the focus off themselves. And I'll give a quick example. My daughter's senior year in high school, she led the state of Ohio in scoring for the women. that year. And for the guys, it was LeBron James. And I think even non-athletic parents have heard of LeBron James. So the same year, they both led the state of Ohio in scoring, one for female, one for males. And the one thing that I do think that we did right in handling Brittany was she never, people tend to go crazy over people that score a lot of points.
Right.
So our goal with Brittany, and that's the one thing I think I might have done well as a parent in relation to an athlete, was she never knew her stats. I never told her she scored 42 that game. We never looked them up. Our goal was, even when she was in the game and we didn't need her to win, either we had already had it in the bag or we were going to lose the game, her job was to make someone else look good.
Right.
So how many assists to another person who doesn't play often could she get so that person will get some limelight? But we as parents, we tend to love the achievements over the character of the person. And we don't, achieving kids who make six figures as a 30-year-old is a nice thing. But I think we want our kids to have character, to handle a loss when things go bad. The one criticism I made sure with Brittany had was if she responded incorrectly after a defeat, a bad game, a loss. And those are some of the focus that and even being faith-based myself, there were AAU tournaments that she was in that played on Sundays. And since we signed up, we felt beholden to the team that she'd be there unless the team didn't need her. Right. The game, we knew we could win without her. It gave other people opportunity. And that was one of the steps that we took as parents with my daughter Brittany that I think was wise.
Yeah, and I think too, your emphasis on not constantly rehashing every game with her and going over doesn't sound like that's what you did. If you didn't talk about her statistics, it doesn't, you're not rehashing and re-going over everything all the time, and to allow her to kind of enjoy the game. Obviously, she's still playing, I think you said, so she enjoys it. And I think we've also kind of lost sight of having kids play sports just because they like it. I mean, not everyone's going to be like, LeBron James or your daughter and go on and play professional sports. Yes, there are those people, but I think we've forgotten that sometimes just playing a game because you love it should be, the joy enough in it, right?
Right, I agree. Some of what I see, I do some basketball training myself where I take athletes and try to improve their skills. But it's amazing when you deal with the parents because the kids want to have fun. They come to me for training. That's great. The parents are always discussing with me why their child won't work harder. Why won't they put the effort into this? And I know the kid will eventually, like you said, they're not going to be pro athletes. Most are not.
Right.
And I hate to see them give up because the pressure of parents. The crazy parent is, I've seen parents who are solid, who are spiritually deep, who have self-control, except when it comes to sports and their child. And it's part of my basketball training isn't just the child. It's the parents to learn to bite their tongue. After a game and their kid does not play well, the kid does not want to hear it now. To learn to bite their tongue during a game when a referee makes a back call against their child. To be able to have some self-restraint as a parent. If not, you show your priority to your child. And your priority doesn't want to have sports over everything else. And we tend to give that to our child. And it can be a little annoying, and it cannot be good for the development of your child.
Right. And I think that for those listeners who maybe don't have a child who plays sports, like me, I think we can also, take that and think about the parent who focuses solely on the kid's grades. And that's all they want to talk about.
Exactly.
The parent who focuses only on the kid's musical performance or this. We can take our interest in helping our child develop a talent to the extreme, or to the pressure of doing well. Like my two girls are in high school now, And I flat out told them, one of them was like, I didn't do well on that test. I said, did you do the best you could? She goes, yeah, but I didn't do very well. I said, so? And she just kind of looks at me. I'm like, that's okay. I mean,
that's good. Right.
It's all right, because she's putting pressure on. Most of our kids are already putting way too much pressure on themselves. I think of the student athlete, the person playing in a band that messed up a solo. I mean, they already have so much internal pressure. We certainly don't need to add to it by pointing out the obvious to them and letting them fail. I mean, come on. Every athlete, every musician, every academic person, we've all failed, and sometimes pretty spectacularly. We're all, there's more than one kid who has missed the winning goal, right? I mean,
right. Sure.
And there's there's always another game. There's always another chance to do that. So how do you work with parents then? What are some of that? You talk about how you try to work with parents, but what are some tips that you've learned in your years of being a sports coach, a basketball coach, that has helped parents to kind of help their kids not to get that I'm the best thing ever on this basketball court kind of mentality?
Yeah, and I think the last few decades, whether it be athletics or theater or the band or whatever, many of our children do succeed in a certain area that's a little unusual. We all have our strong points. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the keys is, for whatever reason, our society has now emphasized, and we go along right with it, more so than a few decades ago, that getting into the top college, getting the highest ACT, becoming the best player on the team who plays a ton of minutes, have all become much more important. And the kid, the anxiousness of the teenager, for instance, I worked a lot with teens, the anxiousness of the teenager and the mental health of the teenager has gotten worse.
Yes.
And I believe one of the reasons is we as parents have got along with society. That's why you see, and I wrote this in an article recently, that's why you see on TV the idea of swag and swagger and the idea of it's about me accomplishing, and you pound your chest, you blow quick kisses to the crowd, you swoop like a jet plane after you score a basket, and that's everybody cheers, and the achievement is everything. Where at one time when teen mental health was better, the parents raised them with character, behavior, what sacrificial love is for another teammate or for hopefully a spouse in the future. That kind of ability to where we don't just honor achievement. And that's what I was saying. The crazy parent honors achievement, accomplishment, my kid.
Right.
And the focus becomes, the kid naturally become more and more egocentric, and it's more and more about achievement and in getting the trophies. And that's a little scary. And I do believe that has a relationship to the downward spiral of teen mental health.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mike, because again, if as a teenager you think that you're only as good as your next game performance, right? Because we're always looking ahead. We're always saying, what have you done for me lately? What have you got on your next test? Instead of, looking at the past and going, oh yeah, you've been pretty steady in how you're tackling this. So this is an aberration. You just had an off game, and helping them to go see that the past, what they've done, it can help them view the here and now, and also look to the future and go, yeah, you've improved so much in these areas. Maybe your dribbling has improved better.
Sure.
And that kind of helping them to kind of see that, rather than just be like, well, you didn't score anything, and, so you didn't make the winning goal, or you didn't block that person, or whatever they needed to do. Instead of focusing on that kind of reminding them that and also reminding them that this is a small blip in their life. Right. I mean, high school sports or college sports can seem very important, but again, like I said, most people who play, even if they play very well, are going to go on and do other things other than play that sport. Even if they play that sport, most of them are not going to be playing that sport when they're 40.
Exactly.
So,
or 30 or 25.
Right.
Or, very few play after high school, much less college. So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so kind of also, I think, in the whole kids sport thing is helping kids deal with that disappointment when they don't do well. So what are some of the things that you found can be helpful as a coach, as a parent, to helping kids develop that, pick themselves up and, start all over again kind of mentality, to keep going on, not to dwell on the failure. Yeah, you can learn from our mistakes, but sometimes I think we tend to dwell on them too much. Then how do we strike that balance to learn from it and yet give them hope? Oh, you can do better in the next game.
Right. And remember, too, they may not do better in the next game. And you may have a child who is a bench warmer, and they don't play much. And if they're trained prior to that correctly, man, there's a ton of things they can learn from that. There's the social aspect. There's the ability to cheer somebody else on. I can remember when my daughter in college, at the end of a tournament, statistically, she was the best, and she was probably going to get most valuable player of the tournament, like she had several times in the past. She did not. One of her teammates did. And I can remember, and I was so proud of her at the time, even though the head coach had come up to me and said, "Hey, Mike, understand that we may give this girl named Kara has not gotten it this year." She told me about some of her home life, and she wasn't raised in your typical type home. And so the need for her to receive that kind of an honor way overshadowed Brittany's need, my daughter's need. And so one of the things you want to train your children when they're younger is the ability to want someone to succeed, even if it causes you to not. Again, It goes back to, is it all about me? And if that, that's the way our society revolves. That's why we can't handle failure. Someone else succeeding is very difficult, but it can be trained. It's easier to start when they're younger.
Yes.
I'll tell you one more example. I have the opportunity weekly to babysit by myself my 10, 8, 7, and 4-year-old grandkids for a few hours. And we'll do competitions because I'm competitive. It's fun. You can learn a lot of lessons. And one time we did sports competitions. There were 2 on each team. And, actually, they were individuals. I sort of helped the 4-year-old a little bit, try to make things even. But I only had 3 treats for 4 people. And the 4th one wasn't going to get a treat, which is really sounds sort of dumb for a grandpa to do, is to not have 4 treats for 3, when there's 4 of them. But I thought, we've talked about this before about reactions, self-restraint. Are we going to have a temper tantrum, whether it's a competition or we don't get enough dessert? Let's see, guys, how we do. So we played 3 sports. I think we played wiffle ball together. We played Sorry. And there was another one. At the very end, the 4-year-old, which is the worst, the one I didn't want to have happen, was in 4th place with 3 treats. So what am I going to do? Well, I wanted to see, I just said, Delaney, let's see how you react. And I just stepped back. And she knew what I meant. She was trying to fight back tears, and I was feeling awful. What did I do?
Yes.
But you know what? She fought it, and I said, man, I'm proud of you. And the number 3, the 3rd one, the 7-year-old, went over and gave her half of her treat. And it was just really a touching thing from sister to sister. But I think the best thing is they're young. They don't throw temper tantrums when they lose. And their ability for a child to respond without, our tendency is, if things go bad, and I have a canary, we call it a canary, don't have a canary, we have an emotional tantrum. Even as adults, we want something. Kids, we run to the kids' rescue when they lose and they're upset, and we give them things. And, no, a loss is a loss. How do you handle it? And so that's one of the things I do with my grandkids, and it's fun to see how some of this really does work.
Yeah, and I think too, part of it is the whole everyone gets a trophy mentality.
Right.
And I've noticed this incidentally with kids at birthday parties not opening their presents because the parents are like, well, I don't want the other kids to feel bad. And I was like, I remember the first time we went, my child was so disappointed that the birthday child did not open their gift because they wanted to see how they liked it, but it was because, they don't want the other kids to feel left out. And I'm like, it's a birthday party. And so that kind of thing, we're supposed to feel good about others. And it does help our hearts when we can honestly tell another team, oh, you did good, or another teammate, you really deserve the MVP because you really played well. Yeah, we might be disappointed we didn't get it. But when we can learn to open our hearts and recognize the achievements of others, knowing that it doesn't detract from us. I mean, isn't that what we want our kids to learn, is that just because someone else succeeds doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a failure.
That's good. That's a good way of stating it. We tend to overpraise. We tend to praise for the wrong things. What I'm saying is go countercultural and praise for the right things. We're always praising for the points. The guy who hit the home run, the best player. Well, maybe we should praise for, man, I love the way you handled that when you made that error in the outfield. You didn't lose it. You got your poise right away. You picked up the ball and you threw it in. Maybe you praise as a coach. I was a coach for many years, and many of your listeners may be a coach or a tutor or whatever. And maybe the thing to emphasize is, man, the effort in practice. And it's not the great play that is everything. And we tend to praise and overpraise the heroes. And heroes are misdefined as being the only hero is the one who scores.
Right.
And that's our culture, and we fall for it constantly. And I think, you mentioned the ability of everyone getting a trophy and not handling. Give your kids the opportunity, like you said earlier, to handle failure. Sometimes, like I did with my grandkids, I knew someone was going to have to handle failure. I'm not sure that's the way, but I think it worked out wonderfully. The ability to so make it work, set up times when your children are younger where someone's going to fail, someone's not going to give, and life won't seem always fair. That's great for them.
Yeah, I think so. And this is a good time for us to end our talk today, just on that positive note. So you've been listening to You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker. My guest, Mark Smart with Parenting Outsmarted, has joined me today, and we've been talking about kids and sports and how to create that good sportsmanship-like heart. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you'll join me next week.
Thanks for listening to this week's podcast of You've Got This with Sarah Hamaker. Sign up to receive notification of new podcasts and listen to previous editions at sarahhamaker.com. Until next time, remember, parenting might be hard sometimes, but don't worry, you've got this.